Lunch in the morning, lunch at night, lunch whenever you feel that it's right. There's no bad time for lunch.
Also, time isn't real.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Youngblood Monday Lunch, the new play podcast from Youngblood, the company of young playwrights at the Ensemble Studio Theater, here in beautiful Hell's Kitchen, New York City. My name is RJ. Sitting chuckling contentedly behind me is Graham Gillis.
Everybody dance now.
Bounp, 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 bounp. Not sure.
Everybody dance now.
Not sure how this became what's happening here in the intro to the podcast of this new play, but here we are, everybody. I wondered how long you could keep it going. The answer was just shy of the 25-second mark. We are so glad that you joined us for a new play by one of the playwright members of Youngblood. Graham is going to tell you a little bit more about what is going on here around the EST Ranch.
Lunch.
It's a little past midnight here at the EST Ranch. All is stillness. I'm supposed to talk to you a little bit about estnyc.org/lunch money. That's a way that you can support the work of the Ensemble Studio Theater and continue to give us the chance to do more podcasts and give more opportunity to our playwrights and artists and get more of these wonderful plays out to you. We've done a lot of different things to raise money for the Ensemble Studio Theater. We've gone bowling. We've played kickball. I told you about the time that I tried to serve as a fence for home stereo equipment. But looking into the stillness of the Ensemble Studio Theater after midnight, I can't help but think of the time when we tried to have a dance marathon to raise money for the theater. Now, at EST, I don't know if you know this about us. We love to dance. A strange little side note, there had been a photo in the New York Times in a feature on New York City nightlife that had a picture of what I think was just a bunch of us on the stage jumping up and down to tub thumping.
That's an embarrassing little detail.
We were pretty excited to have a dance marathon to raise money. We had got numbers on our backs. We had side categories. Our executive director and casting director were the co-winners of our voguing contest, and it was great. But here's the thing about a dance marathon: we weren't exactly clear on the mechanisms of how dancing for a really long time would generate funds. The thing about a dance marathon is that in order for there to be winners and losers, somebody has to keep dancing. And again, let me emphasize that at the Ensemble Studio Theater, we all love to dance. And finally, at 5 a.m, we all agreed to stop. So we had a great time. We didn't raise a lot of money. Now you may say, Graham, that story of the dance marathon is fascinating, and thank you for telling it. But
You may.
but I'm not sure how it's germane. Here's how it's germane. We will do anything to raise money for the Ensemble Studio Theater, for the ongoing work of this company. If you love the Ensemble Studio Theater, if you miss the Ensemble Studio Theater, if you miss sitting in a small, intimate, old space and watching playwright after playwright after playwright launched into the stratosphere like fireworks, like decades and decades and decades of playwrights before them, That theater is waiting for you. It's here waiting. In the new year, the door is going to open for us all to come back. And as soon as it's open a crack, we're going to rip it off its hinges. Please give if you can to estnyc.org/lunchmoney. It really means the world.
Before we share today's play, the Ensemble Studio Theater would like to acknowledge America's cultural legacy of exploited, underpaid, and forced labor, which has fallen disproportionately throughout our history on Black and African diasporic peoples, on Indigenous peoples, on people of color. We'd like to acknowledge the ongoing fight for fair wages and working conditions that continues to this day across our culture, including in the field of theater. The Ensemble Studio Theater is engaged in an ongoing community-led re-examination of how we work together, how we create work together. We look forward to the process of building towards a more equitable future.
We also want to acknowledge that the Ensemble Studio Theater, along with the rest of New York City, is located on Lenape-Hoking. That is the unceded traditional territory of the Lenni Lenape people. Here at EST, we want to pay respect to the Lenape people and to all Indigenous peoples that continue to live, work, create, and contribute here on Lenape-Hoking and across the continent. And now we couldn't be prouder to present today's play, Who Killed Laura Gilbert, episode 853, by Youngblood's own recently graduated Mara Nelson-Greenberg, and directed by Youngblood's own RJ Tolan.
Welcome back to my show, A Simple Crime, The Murder of Laura Gilbert. You're listening to episode 853. It's been 9 years since 23-year-old Laura Gilbert was found dead in her kitchen, her skull cracked open as she lay face down in a pool of her own blood. 9 long years since I first saw her face in the pages of my grandmother's local newspaper, the Weekly Echo, with the headline, "Hot Young Woman with Good Breasts Found Dead," and decided to seek justice for Laura, no matter the cost. No matter if I lost touch with my friends and family, which I have, by the way, and no matter if I became fully dependent on my sponsors as my sole source of income, which I also have, even though I found out recently that while my sponsors say that they're a toy company, and that's what I've been promoting them as on my show for years, their main line of work is actually organized crime, focusing specifically on arms trafficking, loan sharking money at very high interest rates, and something they refer to as doing carnage. But anyways, no matter any of these costs, my need to solve this mystery prevails. And so, onwards I go. So a quick recap of what we know. We know the night of Laura's death, around 7 p.m., she was working her normal job in Rifle, the next town over, which was at the amusement park called Sky Zone. Then she went out to a local bar in Rifle, the Hole in One. Her friend Tony dropped her home around 10 p.m., and by 11, Laura Gilbert was dead. And now a quick recap of episode 852. That was the clown episode. That was the episode where I decided, after someone mentioned it to me in passing, that maybe Laura was killed by a clown. Curse that person. Because after investigating every single clown within a 300-mile radius, I can confirm that they all had an alibi, and that the alibis were all the same. There was a clown conference the weekend that Laura died called Clowning Around, All Around Town, We Are, oh we are, oh we are, the clowns. And all of them were there. So today, we're going to be focusing on a question that's been nagging me for a while now. Is it possible that Laura was killed by Jonny, her mom's best friend's daughter's best friend's brother's friend? And my reason for thinking this is simple. There's literally no one else it could be. I've talked to everyone else in that entire town, and none of them did it. So it's time to talk to Jonny. This episode is brought to you by Tiny Toys, the only toy company that will take your lump sums of money, no questions asked, and turn them into into clean, taxable income through counterfeit real estate transactions, sham loans, foreign bank complicity, and false import and export transactions. Tiny Toys, a real toy company.
Hello?
Hi, is Jonny there?
Oh, he's not. No. Why? Who's calling?
Oh, sorry. My name is Annie, and you are?
I'm Emerald, Johnny's mother.
Oh, I was just calling to ask him a few questions.
Oh, what about?
I have a podcast, actually, and I was hoping to interview him for it.
Oh.
I'm just really trying to figure out how our wires got crossed here, because he said this would be a good time to talk.
Oh, well, he got called in on a shift last minute. He works at Great Basin over on Pioneer, and they're always short-staffed, so maybe I can help.
I guess, if you have a few minutes to spare.
Sure. I'm just taking a break from work anyways.
I've been trying to figure out what happened to this young woman around 9 years ago, and I wondered if Jonny had a connection to her, or maybe he knows someone who did. Would you mind telling me a bit about your son?
About Jonny? Well, sure, yeah. He's a bit of a loner, I'd say. He's a shy boy, really. The type that you never really know what he's thinking.
Oh?
Yeah. He's mysterious, that one. Almost like a stranger to all. Sometimes I look at him and go, what is in his head? And why is he always snarling?
That's so interesting.
It is interesting. It's interesting. I mean, there are things he keeps from me. I mean, stuff that he hides. You can see it in his eyes. His head is full of secrets, and not the good kind either. No siree. That little guy who once crawled his way out of me, very slowly and intentionally gasping for air and looking like a bird, he is full of mean and ugly mystery. Boy, am I being honest? It must be all that vodka I drank right before picking up the phone.
Emerald, I have to ask you something. Do you know if Jonny is connected in any way to the town of Rifle?
To Rifle?
Yeah, the town next over from you.
I don't think so. No. Mm-mm.
You never heard of him, like, going to the local bar there, for example? The hole-in-one?
No, definitely not. He's not much of a drinker anyways. I mean, not much of anything, really. He's never amounted to much.
But I'm talking like this would have been almost a decade ago, like 9 years ago.
No, even then. I mean, he doesn't go to bars. And plus, Jonny was in the military back then. 9 years ago. Yeah, he was in Germany.
What?
Yeah, he was stationed there for a real long stretch. He never visited home.
Are you sure?
Oh, I'm sure, all right. I missed him like crazy.
Man. Damn, okay. I don't think I have any more questions for you then.
Oh, well, I feel like I didn't help.
No, you did. It's like I'm looking at this thing in front of me, and I just know if I could grab it, it would solve all of my problems. But every time I stick out my hand, it's just barely out of my reach.
Well, heavens.
It's funny. I was thinking when you first picked up that you sound just like my mom. And that's exactly what she used to say. I'd be telling her this long story, hoping for maybe, I don't know, a long answer back, and then she'd just go, heavens.
Well, what's funny about that is I was about to say heavens again. Well, I say, beware the thing that solves everything.
Oh, yeah. I was mostly exaggerating, but...
Oh, no, I don't think you were. It's not uncommon to reach, outwards for the catch-all. But if you can grab the thing that solves everything, that means you can also drop it. Mm-hmm.
Maybe. Yeah. Thanks for the, knowledge. I should probably let you go.
Yeah. I guess I should get back to work. Before I do, you mentioned rifle earlier. I don't think Johnny went there much, but my other son, his younger brother, did. Ronnie. So maybe you should talk to him.
Oh, I didn't realize Johnny has a brother. He used to go to rifle?
Yeah, sure, all the time. He worked at the amusement park in town.
At the amusement park in Rifle?
Yep.
Your son used to work at Sky Zone?
Yep. Just around, exactly the period you were talking about 9 years ago. So I am sure he'd be able to help you.
But it's just that I've talked to everyone who worked at Sky Zone back then multiple times. I was working off a list that the manager gave me, and I never saw Ronnie on there.
Yeah, that's because he got paid under the table. His boss was a friend of his, so he'd just step in for people, help out whenever they needed it.
So he wouldn't have been on any list.
Right.
Emerald, can I ask you a question? Did Ronnie ever mention someone named Laura Gilbert?
You know what? Actually, I just realized I have to get back to my job.
But hold on, I'm just trying to figure out...
I am very busy and I have to go.
Please, Emerald, I just have a few questions.
I have to go. I have to get back to work, to my exquisite and meaningful job.
Fine. Thank you for your time. Before I hang up, you never actually told me what you do.
I make porn for horses.
Porn for?
I make narrative pornographic videos for and starring horses, where horses begin talking to each other under normal pretenses, like a horse plumber coming over to another horse's house to fix their horsey sink, or a horse teacher keeps his of age horse student after class to discuss a missed horse homework assignment or an unexcused absence, something like that. And then a horse giggle becomes a horse laugh, and the horses start flirting. Just a bit, of course, like a little horse comment here, a little extra horsey eye contact there, and then one thing slowly leads to another, horse style. And they both wonder if it's actually going to happen. Because built into every premise, of course, are these little horse lines that have been drawn in the sand. Small little horse boundaries that are unspoken, but there. And if the horses are going to act on their horse impulses, on those little sparks of horse electricity that are flying through the very horse-heavy air, they're going to have to cross those lines as horses step over them, push against them, just a bit, until the horses finally make their moves. They leap in, still as horses, they go for it. And then the horses start having very crude horse sex, very gross and very, very messy. And the camera catches everything. I write, cast, and direct those movies, and then I show them to some people, of course. Yes, but mostly to other horses. To other of-age horses. Any questions?
I actually do, kind of.
Well, I am too busy to keep talking, so I bid you adieu.
Later, I start digging, and I find a lot that gets me excited about Ronald Clark as a suspect. He's got a record, he's a loner, and he was working on and off at Sky Zone around the same time that Laura died. Next, I try to track down a few of his old co-workers from Sky Zone, but most of them don't remember Ronnie. Or so they say. A few of them don't get back to me at all, but then I do finally reach someone who I spoke to years ago. Do you remember Nicole S? She worked at Sky Zone at the same time as Laura. I'm going to play you a clip from our first meeting 8.5 years ago, just to jog your memory.
I'd love to talk to you about your relationship to Laura.
Sure. But first, I just got back from the most amazing experience. My friend Eleanor brought me, basically, it's a beginner's Pilates class for people from all walks of life. Really, the only things we have in common is that we all love Pilates, we're vulnerable to manipulation, and we're willing to give $650 a month in perpetuity to the head guru, Derek.
Well, that all sounds great.
Yeah! Let me know if you're interested in joining. I get a discount on one of the meetings if I bring a friend with super gullible eyes, apparently.
At the time, she didn't have much to say about Laura that I hadn't heard already. That Laura was pretty shy, good at her job, and instead of smoking cigarettes, she ate them. But she also told me that I could reach out if anything else came up. And so now, 8.5 years later, that's what I decide to do. When I track down Nicole again, she's changed her phone number, and she sounds different. Not in any really major way, just kind of changed. We get to talking, and she fills me in on what's been going on with her since we last spoke.
So that was a cult. Yeah, the beginner's Pilates group was a cult, and I was in it for about, I only just got out last month, so a bunch of years. I'm not sure why I left exactly. It was just one of those things where I was suddenly like, okay, I'm drinking too much blood.
At some point, after we catch up and I hear about the mechanics of fitting your fist into the skull of a dead cat in order to touch the other side, our conversation turns back to Nicole's time at Sky Zone, and specifically her memories of Ronnie.
He had weird vibes about him. I can't even really name why. I just felt in my gut I should stay away from him. And my instincts are usually pretty good. Except for the cult thing. My instincts were off with the cult.
Do you have any memories in particular of Ronnie? Anything that could help me understand him better?
You know what? Actually, I do. I'm thinking back to Christmas one year when he gave gifts to all the girls. Little trinkets, basically, like air fresheners and stuff. And later that day, he found one of the gifts in the trash can, like someone had thrown it out. And yeah, that sucks, but Ronnie flipped out. Like, he threw the trash can against the window, and he smashed his fist into the wall. It was really, really intense. I mean, not like, oh shit, why is my beginner's Pilates class planning a murder type intense? But it's all relative.
Okay, so flipping out in the break room doesn't mean Ronnie's a killer, but it does make you wonder if he'd go that crazy over something as little as a trinket. What else would he flip out about? I've got to say, this is the closest to an answer I have ever felt. Like, that thing that I've been trying to grab, it's suddenly on my fingertips. But then, Nicole says something that, well, I'll just play it.
Anyways, why are you asking about Ronnie?
What do you mean? I'm trying to see if he did it.
You mean killed Laura? No, he didn't. Ronnie had an alibi.
What's that? He had an alibi?
I thought you knew that. I thought he was, like, of interest for some other reason. Yeah, he had an alibi. It was impossible to forget.
Why? What was it?
I don't think I can say it on your podcast. Too many illegal words.
I ran it by the Tiny Toys legal team, whose motto, by the way, is simply, we tamper with evidence. And I learned that there are actually some words that you can't say on a podcast, hidden deep in the crevices of the English language. And Nicole managed to hit on most of them in describing what Ronnie did that night. So I'm just going to skip ahead to the end of what she told me.
And that's the non-sexual but very disturbing thing that Ronnie tried to do to the President of the United States.
And he was caught doing that the same night Laura died?
Yeah. Like I said, it's hard to forget something like that. All those Secret Service agents, in absolute tears.
So then Ronnie's not my guy.
No, he's not.
I was so sure he was, though. I was really, really sure.
I'm sorry. You know, not that he's not a killer, I guess that's a good thing, but I'm sorry you didn't solve it. I know how badly you wanted to. Annie, I kind of have to run.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Sorry, it's just that I'm starting this new yoga class today, which I'm supposed to put in quotes for legal purposes. A stranger told me about it minutes after I loudly told a friend that I've been feeling really lost recently. Lost and financially solvent because my grandma just died and left me a bunch of money, so it really feels like fate.
Totally, yeah. You should go.
I'm sorry it didn't work out. You know who you could look at, though? There's this guy who worked across from Sky Zone at that ice cream store called Toppings. I think his name was Lucas.
Lucas Kurtz, yeah.
He always seemed a little off to me.
I already talked to him, though. He wasn't in town that night. Though I guess it wouldn't hurt to give him one more look. Unless, I feel like I'm staring at 100 signs and they're all like, get out of here, it's time to move on, bail. And I just don't know why I can't.
You know, leaving the cult felt like giving up a little. I had committed to them for real. I had given them my time, my energy, and the code to my wealthy aunt safe at her home in Colorado. And so it felt like, who would I be without them? What would it mean if I left? But one of the most beautiful things about staring at the abyss is recognizing that it's still you staring at it. And it's still you on the other side. And so maybe... oh, hold on. I'm getting a call on my landline. Hello? Oh, hi. I'm sorry, Annie, I should take this. It's the head of my yoga group. He needs to confirm my appointment by writing down the name of my first pet and my mother's maiden name.
Oh, yeah, go.
Good luck with everything. Sorry about that. Remind me of your name again? Oh, that's right. Hi there, holy leader.
Okay, so the Ronnie lead was a bit of a bust, but maybe it was a good idea to look at Lucas again. Maybe. Worth a shot at least. Then, just as I was ready to release this episode, something else came up. Something that I have to acknowledge because I know a bunch of my listeners will have also seen it. That's coming up after this. Are you tired of spending your days doing the same old, same old? Wish you could experience more fun in your life? For your job? Become a part of the Tiny Toys team. Join the hundreds of people who have ditched their boring day jobs to do exciting things like toy design, branding development, and labor racketeering. See up close how enjoyable it is to try out new products, give design feedback, or exploit and control people's employee benefit plans and unions through illegal, violent, or fraudulent means. Tiny Toys. Join today, jail tomorrow.
Okay, so I'm speaking to Matthew Hill, prolific and prestigious reporter at the Weekly Echo. Matthew, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So, I was wondering if you could just fill my listeners in on the article you published this morning.
Sure. So, this came from a tip that I got a few months ago.
Okay. Yeah.
So, basically, a while back, a source called with the concern that there were carbon monoxide leaks that weren't being reported all across town. And he suspected it had something to do with the fact that all of the gas and electricity in our area is being managed by a toy company of all things.
Okay. Yes, continue.
And so I spoke to a bunch of people and I reviewed over 3,000 internal documents to see just like what's going on here. And what I found is that in our local area, this toy company has basically been doing two things at once. Developing a new, eco-friendly stuffed animal that doesn't compromise the product's softness, and concealing the fact that over the past 10 years, there have been about 6 million carbon monoxide leaks across this single county.
Oh my. And so?
And so I lined up the affected areas alongside any unaccounted for deaths. And I started noticing that where the leaks were unreported, there were also higher numbers of deaths marked simply pending, as in, we don't know, we need more tests.
Which is what the coroner marked for Laura's death.
Exactly right. Then, after fielding a bunch of phone calls from the toy company where they said things like, "Please, we're just a little toy company, sir," and "You publish this article, we'll do carnage to you and yours," I stumbled upon some documents that confirmed it. There was a significant amount of carbon monoxide leaking from Laura Gilbert's furnace the evening that she died.
Huh. And are you sure about that?
Yes.
Well, like, sure.
Yes. We can at this point say with, I'd say 99% certainty, that Laura S. Gilbert, and just a reminder that S stands for Shart, came home from her night out with her friends, inhaled this, poisonous gas in her own home, passed out in her kitchen, and on the way down to the floor, she hit her head on the countertop, cracked it open, and died. Tragically.
And so the article you wrote, the headline.
So the headline we went with, and this was my editor's call, was "Break in Laura Gilbert's Case. New evidence suggests that local woman died from carbon monoxide poisoning." Then there's this sort of subheader underneath it that says that one podcaster is pretty bummed right now.
Oh, wow.
I realize it's not the outcome you were anticipating.
No, it's not.
Annie?
I'm here. Yeah, sorry, I think I need to take a minute. I just feel like such a failure.
Why? That's just the nature of the beast. The stories we're after usually aren't the ones we find. I learned that again just this morning when I thought I was writing a fluff piece about this new yoga class in quotes for legal purposes, and then I found out that they were actually a cult that steals gold from nunneries. But I don't feel like a failure because of that.
Well, that's, with all due respect, that's easy for you to say because you're not a failure. You're literally a success.
No, but failing doesn't make someone a failure. The same way success doesn't make someone a success. I used to think like, I'm Matthew as defined by my job. But I gradually unlearned that, and I'm so glad that I did. Or I could have ended up like my brother.
What happened to your brother?
Oh, one day he's at the top of his field, and he's dedicating his whole life to it, selling ad after ad after ad. The next, he's walking through the park to get from one meeting to another when a bout of wind flies into his mouth that is so big that it rips his head off of his body and sends it flying through the air until it lands at the feet of a group of 5-year-olds who are graduating from kindergarten just as they're starting to sing a song called "We Are Having Our Graduation and This Is the Happiest We'll Ever Be."
Wait, what?
And at first, they thought the head was a red bouncy ball because that's how covered in blood it was. And they started tossing it in the air and shouting, "We love this ball. We are innocent. We are free." But then, one by one, they started realizing that there was red stuff coming out of the head and that the red stuff was maybe blood. And so they began to scream, no, shriek at the top of their little kindergarten lungs. And some of them got blood in their mouths, and one started yelling, "What's happening? What's happening?" And another said, "There's something on my tongue." And the third kid said, "Is this my first taste of blood, and do I really, really like it?" And then a bunch of other kids started yelling about how they were forever changed, and how things would never be the same, and how they used to savor every minute of the day simply because life was beautiful and vast, and now they understood time only as a countdown. Something that slips and disappears and brings them ever closer to their ultimate inevitable demise. And then one kid looked up with a tear in his eye, and he said very solemnly, "Well then, my friends, I suppose it's time to graduate." And they did. And it was the saddest thing I'd ever seen. So anyways, why was I telling you that?
I can't remember, really.
I can't remember either, honestly. I guess it's just like, yeah, can you fucking believe that happened?
Wow, yeah, no. Well, thank you for your time.
It's my pleasure.
By the way, if you're no longer Matthew as defined by your job, then who are you?
I guess that I'm just Matthew. Someone who loves his family, hates the wind because of that absolutely bonkers thing it did to my brother, and watches a thing called, have you ever heard of horse porn? Cut this part out, bud. And that's when the cum happens.
Thanks so much for talking to me.
Thank you, Annie.
Obviously, I'm bummed. Like, pretty majorly so. But I'm also feeling excited to say I failed to solve the mystery, and that is perfectly all right. Although this inevitably brings up some fears too, a lot of different ones really, but they all boil down to this. Say you don't grab the thing, you don't reach your goal, but instead you triumphantly make it to the abyss. And you realize indeed that it is still you standing there on the other side. Well, what if you look at that you and you don't like what you see? I realize that if I'm really going to do this, that's where I have to start. Dive headfirst straight into that question. And then I wonder, is it possible that the newspaper's not telling us the full story? And if so, why not? What is Matthew hiding? Coming up on Who Killed Laura Gilbert, episode 854, The Case Against Matthew Hill.
You've been listening to a new play, Who Killed Laura Gilbert, episode 853, by Mara Nelson-Greenberg. Directed by RJ Tolan, with sound design by Caroline Eng. Featuring Chet Siegel as Annie, Carolyn Mignini as Emerald, Sasha Diamond as Nicole, and Yonatan Gebeyehu as Matthew.
The staff of the Ensemble Studio Theater are Artistic Director William Carden, Executive Director Susan Vitucci, Associate Artistic Director, Director of the ESD Sloan Project, and Co-Director of ESD Youngblood, Graham Gillis. Worst callback ever. Director of Play Development and Associate Director of the ESD Sloan Project, Lindsay Furman. Co-Director of Youngblood, RJ Tolan. Oh, that's me. Production Manager, Jack Plow. Brand Marketing Manager, Harrison Densmore. Communications and Audience Services Manager, Samantha Sembler. Company Administrator, Mariel Sanchez. Development Associate, Joey Nasta. Facilities Manager, Jose Sanchez. The Youngblood Monday Lunch theme song was written and performed by Youngblood's own Jake Brash and Nadia Leonhard Hooper. The podcast sound engineer was Caroline Eng. Thank you so much for spending your lunchtime with us, or anytime. It's a lunchtime of the soul. We hope you'll join us again soon for another new play from the Youngblood Monday Lunch. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Be well. Everybody dance now.
Do you like waffles? Yes, I do. Lunch for me, breakfast for you with theater.